Welcome back to Mr. Foreman's workshop, where we're hoping to achieve the big stitch up, which is putting all of our panels for our bulkhead back together. Am I confident that we're going to be able to achieve this objective? Absolutely not. I should be paralysed with fear, but I think I'm being protected by my low intellect, where I'm too stupid to realise just how far out of my depth I actually am. Now, before we get into it, we're going to have to address some issues from the last episode, because when you overlap two pieces of sheet metal together and weld them, then that becomes a dirty big rust trap. So I was painting these surfaces and just scraping back where I thought the welds were going to go. However, a viewer wrote in and told me about a product, and this is an example of weld through primer. Amazing, right? I never knew it existed. We've done some experiments. This is an example where we have two painted plates with welds on them, and you can see that the stuff works. To get the plug welds to have good penetration, we need to up the amperage of the welder to quite a lot. Now, where an edge sits atop some substantial material, we can actually get short runs without blowing holes in anything. But where we have two edges running parallel with each other, you can see the devastation that results there. I don't think that's a scenario we're likely to encounter, but it's good to know that it's it's going to be a tricky job. This is an example of two edges that butt to one another, and although it doesn't look pretty, you can see with our spot weld technique, a little bit here and a little bit there, it's achievable. We have our two door pillar posts in the jig, and we have our central panel clamped in place where we think it needs to be. This has to go in first, because once you get your top rail on, I don't think you're going to get it in there after the fact, which would be quite a inconvenient and embarrassing mistake. Now, it's not a tight fit, so we have like ½ an inch of lateral movement this way and that, but we took the measurement for our hinges from the center of the panel, and those hinges have to line up with the bonnet, which preferably is going to sit right in the middle of the truck. So we want to make sure that the center of the panel is right in the middle. Now we have our top rail. Now, we've given the guts a good blasting with wax oil to stave off the inevitable. We're going to slide it into place. Right. So getting this thing into position is a little tricky. We have here a gutter that leads to a hole that's no doubt for drainage. We have a thick piece of metal on the door pillar post we can use to make sure that it's level. It's a little warped on the other side, that doesn't help. But we also need to make sure that it's pulled back against the rear of the door pillar post on both sides. Up till now, it's been a slippery little hemorrhoid. It just wants to move around or even jig this way or that, and difficult to keep it locked down, which made it even harder trying to work out how the other panels were going to interact with it further along. Now, as far as tacking it in, we want to make sure the tacks are somewhere where we can get at them easy if we have to move them later on with the grinder. So I think the best of the bad bunch is going to be just around the back. Hey, that's lovely having that thing locked down, I can tell you. I'm going to put in our central dividing piece. There we go. Well, that fits quite nice. Lined up. We're going to tack that to the top rail only, not the bottom. Now, before we do anything with the central panel, there's a few things we need to take into account, because in the previous episode when we welded in our backing plates and supports, we bowed it out and I had to go and sit on it to straighten it out, which is not ideal. So what I think happened, alright, is I think we not only bowed it that way, but I think we also that way, just a little bit. Alright, so this distance here is 3¼ inches, and that lines up pretty well. But over here where the scribe marks are, you can see it's sitting below just a little bit, but that's on both sides, so that's good. What we need to do before we think about welding it into place is install our vents and our hinges and ensure we have clearance. Right, it's awesome. We've got the clearance, works. So I think we are ready to commit to welding in the central panel. Take note of this gap here though, that can't be there. We'll have to start low and shift the clamp. I can't stress enough how important it is to turn the gas on before you start welding. It's not a good start to the job. Well, against all odds, our central panel is in. I don't trust my dodgy spot weld, so I ran a bead down the front here as reinforcement, so it's just not going to drop off somewhere along the line. We can turn our attention to the fourth wall of the vents, which is this little zigzaggy piece that lives right inside there, like such. Now, it's very finicky. We'll see if we can hold it into position with a magnet. Right, and then we'll install our rear panel and clamp it into place. So you can see this thing's not easy to get into position at all. And the other thing is that there are some big gaps that I'm not happy with, both up the top and also down the bottom. So I've decided to can this idea and create another one that fits better. So the second one I created to replace the first is a little bit bigger, but unfortunately it's too big to fit inside as the other one did. However, it fits snugly over top. It's a much easier installation, the gaps are greatly reduced, and we still have clearance from the vents on both sides. So that is a bonus. I'm going to run a bead straight down here, across and around the back, and I think it's time to commit to welding in the top of the bulkhead. Well, there we have it. The top section is in, and the job didn't go nearly as badly as I feared it would. In fact, there's even a few lines that show that I'm making progress in my craft. Now, in the previous episode, I did promise to do a lot of the Footwell renovations behind the scenes, and evidence to the contrary, well, I have. It's just, as you can see, there's a lot less of them than what there was before. On the floor is a non-comprehensive pile of self-fabricated panels that are all ready to go on when the time comes. I got this trailer in the junk heap, and the axles and the wheels in another junk heap. I just had to buy some shackles, springs, wheel bearings, new front hitch, and do a bit of welding, and I use it all the time. Today it's my bulkhead welding table. The next move is to install this little front panel that lives in here like that. And it's quite important because we have over here that front wing, and that bolts into these holes just here. But to support the top of it, we have a bracket, and that slots in as you see. And then the bracket bolts onto this front panel like that. Now we're going to lose access to be able to get at it, so we should do it sooner rather than later. Now we've got our front panels in, things are going to get serious. What we have here, this is our dashboard backing plate that's going to live in there. We've gone ahead, we've drilled out the holes for our wiring harness for the dash. We've got a little hole there for the choke cable, and this is for the steering column. Now to get that, we put the skeleton of our bulkhead onto the truck and took some serious measurements from a set point. We then even made a template to see how it was going to fit over top of everything, and then we bit the bullet and drilled it out. I'm telling you, if we've got that wrong, there's going to be tears. Alright, let's line it up and hook it in. This is a very delicate operation. We've installed our brackets here to make sure we've got clearance on both sides. In addition to that, we have these lines that you see right there, and that centralises it to the central panel, that lip that will be spot welded into. It's looking good. Now our backing plate is designed to line up with that panel right there. And so we're not going to go crazy just yet. We're going to tack it into place, 1, 2, 3 on both sides. Now we have everything tacked into place, it's time to install this whole unit. I want to start right here in the middle. And then, having done the centre and the top, clamping as we go, we'll come over about 10 inches and do the same. Centre, top and bottom with the clamps. Then we'll come to the right about 10 inches, do that out towards the ends, and then work our way back in on the areas we have yet to cover. Alright, I want to avoid any twisting and warping and other such mischief that hot steel can get itself into. Now we have our 5 million spot welds in place, we're going to start working on this seam. These fill pieces are going to replace some of the unserviceable steel we had to cut out of the dash when we restored it. Well, our dashboard's in, and look at it, it's not just falling off, so that's an accomplishment. We can start on the footwells. Right there. Needs to be lined up with that seam. Good. Make sure that it's lined up there and clamp it into place. Okay, we've got a lot to do on this one. We not only have to join it to the footwell there, we have to fill in these seams, spot weld it all the way down here, but in addition we have to come over and run a bead where the footwell joins the pillar post. That looks alright. I'm going to leave the clamps on for as long as possible, take me time and go for it. Well, looks like the side of our footwell's in. We've got our double bead there. It's very secure. It doesn't look like it's going to just drop off. And the good news is we get to do the same on the other side. Alright, so we want this footwell panel to be flush not only against there but along there. Well, our passenger footwell's taking shape. I'm quite happy with it. We're just tacking it in because there's still a lot of finicky things that are going to interact with it, so we just want to make sure we haven't made any mistakes. But the driver's side, we have this panel here with a nice 45-degree slope on it, so it's going to come up against that dash backing plate. We'll slide in like this, press up there, then Back at the passenger side, we have this little patch piece here that's got to fit in right there. And it's important that we get it level across this point here. Alright, and then this little piece here is going to fit right in there. So what we've created here is a flattish surface that runs along there, and the way we're going to blend that section of the footwells to the dash backing plate is with our little L bracket right here. We're going to stick in there, press hard against that, and this section here is quite level, and those panels can be pushed up to meet it. Hey, have a look at some of them. I'm just starting to get better at it and the job's nearly done. Well, we have our footwells pretty much locked in. We're on the home stretch. Okay, what we have to concern ourselves with now is filling the gap between here and the dash backing plate. So what I'm going to start with is this little panel here. It's going to fit in there like such. Well, here we have it, our bulkhead unchained. I think it's time before we do anything else to test fit it to the vehicle. But for that I'm going to need the help of my saucy assistant. not you, the other one. Lift, and I'll rest the gear. Lean it across over there. You in position? So it's got to come in front of that outrigger. Even if you get it partially in.
Yeah, it's partially in.
Alright, hold. Let it move. There's yours. Can you get it in? Alright.
Good job, Cricket. Good job. Good supervising. Are we good?
We're good. Yeah, thank you. I don't know if Cricket's going. I think she's going to stay in here and it's dry.
You want to come? Very wet.
No, I'm quite surprised. I didn't really expect that to work. After numerous generous layers of primer, we set to applying automotive sealant to any of the cracks and joints where moisture may seep in and begin its mischief. A solid drenching of wax oil is delivered into the door pillar posts. We have some tape being used as an indicator to prevent ourselves from also receiving treatment. Now, we're quite cunning here. We have pre-drilled holes allowing us to get deep into the central panel. Well, there's a word that gets thrown around the classic automotive industry, and that is patina, which I suspect is foreign speak for crappy paint job. Incidentally, if you're requiring a little patina on your own project, then my rates are reasonable. Now, in the upper echelon of the would-be restorer are the purists who want to recreate their vehicle to be as close to original as possible and have it gleaming like it just come off the factory floor. Not me, however. I'm more of a patina guy. I want the vehicle to be looking pretty much the same as when we received it. Very much like myself, not pretty to look at, but functional under the hood. Now, do keep in mind that me and this chariot share a combined age of well over a century, so when we're talking functionality, it might be best to keep your expectations a little low. Now, not painting the aluminium bits, that's okay, but as we know, the bulkhead, the front grille, the side rails, and this thing, they're made of steel, and that's a different puddle of frogs. Well, a friend of mine named Andy, who's a fellow restorer and much more accomplished than I, has a Series 1 himself, gave me this bronze green colour swatch to take to a paint shop and have a batch made up, which I did. In hindsight, however, this is not the colour I'm trying to match to, but one that's suffered 70 years of environmental abuse. Anyway, I managed to acquire myself a pack of 8 aerosol cans, but they were rather pricey, and we are a budget operation. Now, this is a still from the previous episode, and what we're focusing on here is that green rain gutter, eh? That gives some clues to our skullduggerous money-saving techniques. So what we do is we get it as green as possible with the cheap stuff, and then we give it a light spray over with the expensive gear, and then voila, eh? Our finished product. Thank you. No worries. Things are getting very exciting now. We can add on and replace all those little bits that belong on our brand new bulkhead. Alright, now we've got our pedals in and all connected up. We're going to get into our brake adjustment cam, and then we're going to tighten it until the brakes start to grip the drum, which is about there, and then we'll back it off 2 notches until we get free play. And now we've done that to all 4 wheels, I see no reason why we shouldn't put some fluid in the system and bleed it. But for that, I'm going to need some help. Oh, I'm going to need someone with longer legs. Okay, 4 and hold. According to the book, we're going to start bleeding the brakes from the furthest wheel from the master cylinder, which in this case is going to be the rear left wheel, and we're going to work our way in to the front right. Oh, that one's good. Oh, that's good. 2. Well, we bled the brakes. Now it'll be nice if we can test them. Alright, good. Okay, go a little faster. Down a little quicker. Yeah, go a little faster if you can. Go a little quicker.